Hello there, I'm Bryan.
And I'm Bryan.
And this is Bryan versus Bryan, episode 47. Today we'll be talking about Dragon, the Bruce Lee story. Pretty awesome film, one of my favorites from childhood. Bryan had not seen it yet, so he'll be coming into this fresh, and I'll be coming into this with my rose-tinted glasses, and we'll see how that works for us. This came out in 1993. Yes, 1993. Good ass year. Jurassic Park got a lot of stuff coming in 1993. Who was this directed by? Rob Cohen. You may know him from
Furious.
Fast and Furious. Like I think he did like Triple X. So I think he kind of peaked on this. I think this movie's really good. I don't really enjoy many of his other ones. The first Fast and the Furious was decent. And, the first one before they went fucking off the rails, that one was pretty good. But other than that, I'd still say this is probably his best film. All right, so 1993, loosely based off the book written by his wife, Bruce Lee, The Man Only I Knew, and she was like a consultant on the movie. Got pretty positive reviews when it released. It seemed to be that most people's problem with it is the liberties it takes with the story of Bruce Lee. I don't really have any trouble with that because Bruce Lee was kind of bigger than life person, so the movie does some dramatic stuff. Some things they do, I don't really understand why they would do it. It doesn't change anything or make it better, and we'll get into those in a minute here. But overall, I wasn't too concerned. So this is your first time watching it. Mm-hmm. You want to kind of walk us through the plot of the film, and maybe I can jump in with some things that were changed about his life, or maybe if you know some, you can pop those in too.
Yeah, you may have to help me too, because I actually watch this Thursday. Typically, when we do these things, I usually watch it the night before, so I'm a little more fresh. But I had to go camping this weekend, so it's not as fresh in my mind as normally I typically would. So please help me if I get off the path. But so it starts as Bruce Lee as a young boy who's training in martial arts. I guess it sounds like or looks like his dad kind of gets him set up with a martial arts trainer. I don't know if I'm assuming it's Kung Fu, but I don't know too much about martial arts. But
Wing Chun Master Ip Man, very famous.
I figured
Wing
that was
Chun
the
master.
Yeah.
He's got his own movies now with what's his name playing?
Is it
Donnie Yen? Donnie Yen?
Yeah. And then, just like I said, the Three Ninjas movie, you're off to a good start when the first 5 minutes is a fucking training montage, because you get one of those like Lion King, Simba, montages where he's doing the hand training.
And the music is like, doo, 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 doo.
Yeah.
Like the soundtrack is really good. I like the score on this thing. I can't remember if it was Danny Elfman or somebody, but the score is really good for all of it too.
Oh, actually, I need to rewind. So that's kind of how the movie
Randy
starts-ish.
Edelman, sorry.
Randy Edelman.
Not Danny Elfman.
If it ain't fucking John Williams, it's Danny Elfman, I tell you what. But the movie this is actually important. I forgot about this, but the movie actually opens with a dream sequence where Bruce's dad has a dream where Bruce is getting attacked by a demon.
Yeah.
And he wakes up and he kind of checks on Bruce and he puts some objects on the windowsill, or 3 objects, if I remember right. Anyways, so Bruce trains in Wing Chun as a montage of him training with his trainer, and he gets older. And then I think the next time you see him, he gets into a fight with a couple sailors at a ballroom festival. I don't know.
And like a cha-cha dance off.
And that's when you see kind of Bruce as like a young buck. I'm assuming he's probably in his late teens, early 20s maybe. But he gets into kind of an over the top fight scene. That's kind of where we get our first fight scene, a first kind of look at Jason Scott Lee. Is that his name? Or Jason Lee Scott?
Jason Scott Lee.
And I guess we could start with, we can pause to talk about him.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about him other than this. And I thought he did really well as Bruce. I bought his performance. I mean, he's a little rough around the edges and some of his dramatic stuff towards the end. But in terms of his choreography, I thought it was pretty damn good. Apparently he's a dancer and he'd never had any martial arts training, and they wanted to pick him because as a
They wanted
dancer.
someone who could act,
Yeah.
but then they could teach him to fight. So your criticism of his not being able to act doesn't help him. But
It's
so
not.
that's
I mean, he's not Tommy Wiseau from The Room, like, oh hi
yeah.
Ted, or whatever. But
It's pretty easy to seem over the top when you're doing the Bruce Lee accent. Yeah.
yeah, for sure. And yeah, so yeah, we get our first fight, and man, I don't know if I want to get started with this early because, well, yeah, fuck it, we'll get the elephant out of the room. The fighting in this movie, man, it's so over the top, and I think some of the fights later on in the movie work better for me, but some of the fights in the beginning, this one in particular, and then we'll get to another fight that takes place with a couple cooks. But so there's a couple of fights at the beginning of the movie where I'm just like, it's almost kind of laughable how just over the top it is. And I don't know how I felt about it. I don't know if it still holds up for you, but it didn't really hold up as strong for me. I was expecting it to be a little stronger, but
they're pretty good. I don't think they're too crazy. There's a lot of. It's overall pretty realistic, except when he'll do like a flip or something, or when he kicks you, you fly. But when it really gets down to like hand to hand combat, it's pretty realistic. It is a little out there, almost cartoonish, but I think they're all pretty fun. Like the sailor fight was pretty fun. He flips onto the table and eats the cake. Woo! Mm-hmm. Throws the cake. I thought that was pretty cool. And I like how they showed this. Bruce Lee is a super funny guy from all accounts of people. Mm-hmm. Like I can't really tell that from his films, but like when he puts his arms in the sailor's fucking jacket.
Yeah, dancing with him. Yeah. I like little bits like that for sure.
So yeah, it is a little. It's nothing. I would put in the realm of Fast and Furious stuff. You know what I mean? He's not jumping a car into a helicopter,
no,
but
he's not. Yeah.
It's definitely more than the fight scenes in an actual Bruce Lee movie. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Like I actually went back watched some fight scenes from his old movies, and they're actually really quick. And well, the fights themselves are quick, but the way it's filmed, it makes it seem longer. Like they're a little more drawn out, and they have a little more attention to them back then. But yeah, I don't know. I hear what you're saying. It's not. I don't want to make it seem like it's an egregious, like fucking silly, Mortal Kombat type of shit, but there's just little things like the cake scene I like too, where he stops and eats the cake, but he does like 5 somersaults and a backflip onto the table where I'm like, all right. It's little shit like that where I'm like, that's not. And then there's, we'll get to the chef's fight scene later, but
I remember thinking in that scene, and I thought as a kid, and I thought at this time too, like, man, that's a waste of a piece of cake to just take that tiny little nip and throw it. Just to look cool. Like, oh, why'd you do that, man?
Bruce, some people just want to watch the world burn.
Yeah, so from there, he's getting in too many fights, and Dad sends him to America. That's pretty much how it happened. He was getting in a lot of fights. And, I don't think he was going to be arrested or something, how they kind of imply in this movie. But he was getting in too many fights, and his dad wanted him to have a better life and to go to school in America. And
he tells him about the demon, doesn't he? Like, there's a demon in our family who's
he does. He brings up the demon, and this demon is inner fear and hatred. And there's some really cool voiceover stuff. I forgot at the beginning, like it's something about like everyone has demons. We call them fear. We call them doubt. And it's like if you conquer your demon, a life of one day can be a triumph. But if you do not, a life of 100 years can be meaningless or something like that. So it's a pretty cool, deep philosophical stuff, with the demons. So it's kind of just because Bruce Lee was super philosophical, dude. I think he majored in philosophy, and he was always about that. And so I think that's how they added it to this movie. Some people don't like that demon stuff. I didn't think it was egregious or too much. I thought it was a kind of a cool metaphor, and him fighting his doubts of himself.
Yeah, I actually like it a lot. That's one of the things I really liked about the movie is the demon character, or the demon aspect of it. Because the demon shows up a few times in the movie. Yeah, I like that demon a lot. I like the idea of the demon and the metaphors, especially with Bruce Lee. If it came up in another movie, it'd be like, what the fuck? But it
Yeah,
does make sense in this biography.
it kind of gives you more of a makes it more of a movie than a bio. You know what I mean? Feels more like a
Yeah.
film. It's pretty
And it
cool.
also makes it kind of somber and sad, like especially towards the end where Brandon kind of gets involved a little bit in some of these demon sequences especially when the outcomes of this
Yeah,
family. It's kind of makes it kind of sad when you're watching this demon kind of run around. But yeah, I like that demon stuff a lot.
for sure. In 1993, I think Brandon died in 93.
Yeah, because the movie's dedicated to him at the end. So
Oh,
he,
was
he
it?
died.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah. And they did want to. There were some talks about casting Brandon Lee as Bruce Lee. I think it's probably good casting that they didn't.
yeah.
He didn't want to play his dad, and they don't look much alike. I don't think Brandon Lee could play a very convincing Bruce Lee. Like, watch The Crow and tell me that looks like Bruce Lee. Bro.
Yeah,
uh, so yeah, this guy they found I thought was really great, and especially that you didn't know him, so you could just believe it, and you believe it even though he's way bigger than Bruce Lee and not as toned as Bruce Lee, but it's pretty believable.
hmm
So now we're in America. Yeah, got the stuff, got some money from his dad, goes to America, and they don't really say it in the film. I think they can't. But anyways, he's in Seattle, and he went to UW, is a school he went to. I do believe they have a gymnasium named after Bruce Lee now.
Mm.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I like the fact that he went to one of our Washington schools.
I totally forgot it was Seattle. The whole time I was thinking it was California or like San Francisco.
He starts in UW, and
Yeah.
then when he graduates, he goes to San Francisco, Oakland,
That's right.
around that area. I don't remember exactly what cities he was in. He had a couple California studios though. Yeah, so then he meets Linda, his future wife, at UW, and starts teaching Wing Chun Kung Fu. And then yeah, once he graduates, Linda convinces him to open a school so he can make some money off this, since he loves to do it anyways. And they moved to California to do that. And then a lot of this is true. In California, they have Chinatown there in San Francisco. And back then I think this is early 60s then.
Yeah, like 62, 63.
Yeah, so we're talking about Chinatown, early 60s. And, Asians aren't allowed to teach whites or anybody other than Asians, for that matter, martial arts. And he'll teach anybody. And there was like a freaking like sect of people that came after him for it. And then it talks about in the movie, they mention once he gets the scroll and goes and talks to I'll teach anybody I want, and all the Asians playing mahjong are like, no, you won't. We've had complaints from such and such, from Wong Jack Man. Wong Jack Man is an actual person.
Mm-hmm.
Wong Jack Man is the person he fought. They don't name the character he fought that in this movie. It's like some random guy.
It's like Johnny or some shit.
Yeah, but that's the guy he fought, was Wong Jack Man, and the fight happened at his kung fu studio, not like in some fucking temple. And Bruce Lee won, and he did not injure his back like this story. So they kind of melded the two. Like, Bruce Lee injured his back lifting weights incorrectly because he's just fucking crazy workout guy, like too much. Like, he needed to rest between, and he never did, and so he hurt his back that way. But yeah, he whooped Jack Man's ass, and but from all accounts and from what he said, the fight lasted a while, and he didn't like that. He thought it should have been over quick, and like it goes over in the movie. There's too much classical mess in kung fu, and I wasn't able to finish the fight the way I wanted to. And that's when he starts developing his own form of martial arts called Jun Fan or Jeet Kune Do. And then, yeah, from then on, he becomes like a mixed martial artist. That's why a lot of people consider him the father of mixed martial arts. He starts trying to incorporate grappling and all sorts of different things to make his fight style the most absolute efficient it can to make it. So I've read his book, The Tao of Jeet Kune Do. It's pretty fucking awesome, the philosophy in it about fighting. But anyways, we're getting away from the movie. But in the movie, Yeah, he fights this long haired dude, kind of looking like Shang Tsung. I like that fight. I've always liked that fight, even as a kid. I guess it's not very long, but it's pretty cool. It's one of the most realistic fights in the whole movie, I think. Yeah, there's not too much jumping or anything. What do you think of that fight?
Well, it's funny because when the movie was over, that's the first thing I wanted to research because that whole sequence, that whole just like story plot line, it felt so fucking random and out of place and weird. Like it's going down this dungeon with people wearing robes in the stadium sitting down. And I'm like, what is happening? Obviously, this is dramatized. There's no way this. Yeah. So I had to like research. And yeah, it kind of goes down what you're saying, but it is difficult because there are two versions of the story. One is that Bruce, what you said, basically what you said is Bruce's account, and then you got Wong's account, which is like no, it had nothing to do with him teaching anything. He came into a dojo, or he saw him at a theater play or something, and Bruce was running his mouth saying like I can beat up anybody in San Francisco, and then Wong was like, all right, motherfucker, let's go then, and then they set up some sort of fight. And like you said, it lasted a long time. Wong said 20 to 25 minutes. So there is one of those things like you either believe one of the others. There's really nobody to corroborate either one of their stories.
Well, so somebody else was there. I've seen interviews by the other person that was there. I forget his name, but I mean, he was a student of Bruce Lee's. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, take it as you will, but I forget who it was. It's DeSanto or somebody. There's a lot of famous Bruce Lee students that have a lot of YouTube videos. I would check them out. There's some really interesting stuff. You get the most interesting stuff about Bruce told by his students. Oh, yeah. Because they're around him all the time and they have the cool, like, underground stories, all the cool stuff.
Yeah. But yeah, in terms of the fight, again, I don't know. It was fine. I don't know. I'll be honest. Like the fights didn't really start entertaining me till the latter half of the film. There's some fights at the end, towards the end, the second half of the film that I really enjoyed. But like I said, the stuff in the first half, I didn't really vibe with me. But yeah, it was fine. You know, there's some cool moments. Like, what happened? Oh, didn't he get his fucking chest slashed by his opponent's clawing at him? And shit.
Looking like Enter the Dragon.
Yeah, and then you got the kind of over the top slow motion backbreaking scene, which was, oh man, I can't imagine getting fucking just drilled like that in the back, dude.
Yeah, I like that where it's like,
yeah,
he's like doing that crazy.
His friend like no. Yeah, I don't know. It was fine. It was okay. It wasn't my favorite of all the fights, but
yeah. So he gets hurt, and so he's in this crazy contraption, I guess, in the 60s. Yeah. There's a robot bed where he's strapped in, and Linda comes and talks to him, and then you get that one scene where he's just pissed off and thinks Linda's gonna leave him. Get out of here, Linda! Leave me, Linda! Go back to your mother, Linda!
Yeah, that leads to one of my favorite scenes in the movie because they have a fight and she storms out because he's basically pushing her away. And at this point in the movie, he had already seen the demon once in his studio. He like has some sort of vision where he
that one was cool because the door blew up and shit.
Mm-hmm. So at this point, you know, he's in this contraption, he can't move, and he's facing the floor, and he hears something at the window. The drapes are kind of moving back and forth, and so you think that it's going to be the demon again, and all of a sudden you see this fucking notepad just drop on the ground, and then Linda just slides underneath, and she's like, "All right, motherfucker," and she goes through this whole speech, and I don't know, that's one of my favorite scenes in the movie. I really like Linda a lot. I like the relationship a lot. So I thought it was a cute kind of fun scene.
Yeah, Linda is played by, I forget her name, but she was in Dumb and Dumber, so most people know her as the
Samsonite.
Yeah, the girl that he's after. Lauren Holly, is that her name? Yeah. So yeah, that's a lot of people say that's one of their favorite things is that the love between the two on screen seemed believable, and I'll give it that. I thought it was very believable as far as it seemed like Bruce and Linda.
Yeah, agreed.
And then she gets him to write the book to put down all his ideas about martial arts, the Tao of Jeet Kune Do. And so they do that, and then before you know it, he's wheeling out of the hospital. How you feel, Mr. Lee? Oh, like park car. And he pops a wheelie, and he's like, "Oh, woo whoop!" And he does like a woo as he's wheeling out. Woo whoop! I was like, "Oh God!" Just imagine being there and him doing that, rolling out. Whoop, whoop. Like everything he does, he's got to give a whoop. It's like Ric Flair over here. Yeah, so that kind of didn't slow the movie down. Oh, watching this movie again, I realized there's not as much fighting in it as I remembered. It's really mostly story stuff.
Yeah.
So that's kind of interesting. But it's pretty briskly paced, even though it's a lot of story. Because it covers everything so fast. It's like things that were actually pretty important in his life. It's over in like 10 minutes, 5 minutes. You know, the movies, it's like when he finally starts making movies, it's like they're on the set of one of them and then it's over.
Yeah, it's towards the end.
Yeah, and it's like that's a huge part of his life was becoming a movie star and making movies, and they kind of breezed through that real quick. So I was like, I wish they expanded on that more. But yeah, at that point, he gets he goes to the karate championships to demonstrate Jeet Kune Do, which actually happens. And he did spar there. He didn't like fight again, but anyways, they have him fight the Wong Jack Man character again. And I like how he's like, I beat him before. I beat him again. I was like, how the fuck did you beat him?
You lying motherfucker.
Like, you mean when he punched you in the face till you said I quit, and then you kicked him in the back?
Yeah. This was this was you may shake your head at me, but this is the fight that I was like, okay, you got me on one, because I like this fight a lot.
Yeah, this one was pretty sick.
Mainly for the reasons that they give you, because the other fights are just him kind of being goofy and being Bruce Lee, which is fine. I don't have anything wrong with that. But this one gave some tension to it. It was the first time we had tension in the scene, which
but why? I was like, why is he so worried about fighting him when he whooped his ass?
Yeah.
The only reason you were hurt is because you fucking walked away and he kicked you. I don't understand why. Oh no, him.
Right. Well, yeah, the doctor, there's that line Linda says, hey, the doctor said you can't fight again. So you have the tension of, is he going to get hurt again? And then you also have a ticking clock where he says he's going to beat him in 60 seconds. So you have this.
By the way, wasn't this fight like 4 minutes?
Yeah, it's pretty long.
I think this fight was like 5 minutes, and they keep showing the clock. It's like 15 seconds.
It goes like
it's already like 2.5 minutes into the fight. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. So I like that aspect where, like, okay, now we're building a couple layers of tension. It's getting me more involved in the fight. And yeah, I liked it a lot. And I like that at the end, he's just fucking covered in sweat. I'm like, you got covered in sweat in 60 seconds? Like, come on, man.
Oh, he's always covered in sweat in this.
Mm-hmm.
I like Linda kind of walking away during that. Okay, if you get hurt again, I'm not going to be there again. You know, you're on your own. I'm leaving. I'm not going to watch. And she comes back and secretly watches. Mm-hmm. But before she leaves, I love when he says, don't go too far, honey. It only lasts 60 seconds. I just love the arrogance and the confidence, even though he's not really that confident. You could tell. Yeah. But he just carries himself that way. So I really like that scene. And the fact that she came back to watch was awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
Then you could tell, like, when he got out and then they kind of embrace and walk away, I thought there was just an unspoken moment of, okay, he is as good as he thinks he is.
Mm-hmm.
So I can be confident in that. And so I like that.
I can trust him, and if he's going to fight, you know.
Yeah, and so I don't know. I think it was actually how it happened. The producer was there. Forget his name, but he produced the Green Hornet. I think he produced a lot of television shows back then. And he saw Bruce and thought, man, that's really cool stuff. We need to get that on camera. And ends up casting him as a Green Hornet, or not Green Hornet, but Kato in the Green Hornet. Mm-hmm. And I want to go back and watch some of that footage. I've never really seen any Green Hornet stuff. And so
I haven't either.
Yeah, the first footage of that, they're filming on the set, and that's one of my favorite scenes. I love that. Hey, cool, Bruce, could you walk down here and then take this corner? Not too fast now. We don't want to lose you on the first show. And then when you get down here, you think you could take these 4 steps all in one? I could try. And then he comes through and he's just fucking blasts the door open, kicking it. And he kicks the fucking railing of the stairs and doesn't take any of them and goes down a pole. And then during the fight, he like kicks a hanging light. He goes after the bad guy who's like probably wasn't supposed to be involved in the fight at all. And then the guy's like, no, hey! And he like goes out the door. And then he's the guy who's playing Green Hornet. I love it. And he's like, good job, Kato. And he just keeps going. Good job, Kato. And then finally gives a third one. Good job, Kato. No problem, boss. And then everyone's just staring.
Yeah.
And then finally the director, cut.
Yeah, that's a great
That's
scene.
a print. Yeah, that was pretty awesome. I love that scene.
He kicks the fucking light in the ceiling. But apparently that's real. I mean, they were saying that he moved so fast that they had to fucking
they had to super slow it down. Especially in the 60s, I don't know what kind of cameras they had. What 24 frame per second was pretty standard.
Yeah.
25. That's not a lot of frames.
Mm-hmm.
And so you move fast enough, that's gonna fuck shit up. It's a big blur. So yeah, that happens, and they're developing a series together that he can star in that will be his own now, and the series is Kung Fu. Then Green Hornet gets canceled, and they're kind of sad, and Bruce Lee says, "Well, we'll just move into Kung Fu." And you could tell that the Kung Fu ball isn't quite getting rolling because there's all these prejudices in Hollywood. They don't want an Asian lead. They barely wanted him to be in Green Hornet, but he kept the mask on because they wanted him to. And then, Kung Fu gets cast with David Carradine. This has always been one of my reasons why I've just always hated David Carradine. Forever. I don't like him in anything. I don't want to see him. Well, first of all, because he's a shitty actor. I've never seen him in anything that I thought was of any quality. Even in Kill Bill, I was like, hey, he's fucking pretty shitty.
Yeah, that's the only movie I really recognize him for. I don't think I've seen any other of his movies other than Kill Bill.
Yeah, he was in like Death Race and shit. Shit.
Okay, well, man.
And so I've just never liked him ever since this. I was like, that bastard took Kung Fu. Yeah, this is such a weird thing. Kung Fu, this guy comes from China, and it's David Carradine. It's like, what the fuck?
Does he have a bald cap on, or did he actually shave his head? I'm curious. He probably had a bald cap on.
Yeah, I have no idea. But so never liked him because of that. But it's probably for the best, because what if Bruce Lee would have wasted his time on Kung Fu? I think that ran for a couple seasons, so it would have got rid of a couple years of his life, and he didn't have a very long one.
Yeah.
And so since that didn't work out, they don't really go into this very much in the movie, but he just always wanted to be a movie star. That was like his biggest thing. So he could share Kung Fu on film that way. And it touches on it in the movie that he wants to be a hero, an Asian hero, which America wouldn't have. And so he decides to go to like China, and he's going to film some movies with them and to try and break into. He figures if he gets super popular there, they can't deny him in America. They'll have to put him in American movies. They'll see that there's an audience for it. And he signed this deal with Golden Harvest Productions. I forget the guy's name. Golden Harvest. The guy who directed all his stuff was something. Raymond Chow, the producer. If you don't know about Golden Harvest, go look that shit up. They made all the best kung fu movies of all time ever. Just look up the Golden Harvest fucking filmography, and it's just bangers. I think they even did the first Ninja Turtles movie was a Golden Harvest co-production. So it makes some killer shit.
I like to back up just a second because we're getting to his film or his Hong Kong career. There's a cool scene. Well, I mean, his dad ends up dying in the movie. This happens around the time that he finds out that he's being replaced on Kung Fu.
Oh yeah.
And he gets a phone call when the episode 1 airs, and he gets a call that his dad dies, which apparently I think they're a year apart in real life, but they used it for the low part of his life type of deal. But they have this kind of interesting scene. Well, first of all, when he goes to the funeral, I don't think I've ever seen as cool of a cemetery. That cemetery was fucking, as cemetery structures go, that was pretty fucking crazy architecture wise. Anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there. But there's a funny scene. He's on his way back to America, and he's on a boat, and they keep cross-cutting between him standing on a boat and then these guys, they're chasing after him for some reason. You don't know why. Yeah. And then they go through all these hoops, and the guy finally gets to Bruce on the boat, and he's just a film director who just really wants to work with him. He's like, you got to stay. I'll pay for your hotel. We will pitch you this movie. So that was kind of cool. A fun little scene.
Yeah, that was the Golden Harvest guy.
Was fucking chasing him down.
I think he wanted to work with them. I really don't think that's, you know,
Yeah.
it's dramatic, but Bruce Lee happens to be here. Find him! Find him!
Just all running around the street.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a funny line though. He's like, I've been chasing you all through Hong Kong. He's like, you should get a car.
Yeah. And then so they make some movies, and so they're on the set of, I think, where it first shows them on the set of something. It was The Big Boss, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the one with the ice factory. That's a really good one. And then so you think they're gonna have a fight scene or film some fight scenes, but when you know it, guy who gets out of the van is the younger brother of the Wong Jack Man character. They keep tying into all this, and he beat him up, and he tells Bruce, "My brother can't talk right. My brother can't walk right. You disgraced us." then he fights him, and this guy kind of looks like an Asian Dolph Lundgren.
Yeah, he does.
Like he just reminded me of like Dolph Lundgren the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I must break you, but I'm Asian.
Yeah, he has like two lines.
Yeah, and he's a lot bigger than his older brother. So they start fighting, and it's pretty much a scene from The Big Boss, because they're fighting like in the set of The Big Boss, and there's ice, and they got the saws. He's trying to cut his head off. This fight was pretty good. I always loved this as a kid. The ice part where he's rolling the ice blocks at him, and I don't even remember. It's been so long since I've seen The Big Boss. If he breaks ice like that in the movie,
I don't remember. It's been a while since I've seen that too.
I'm pretty sure he does, but I can't remember. I need to watch it. And if so, it'd be interesting to know how they did that, or if he just did that. You know what I mean? Because ice is hard as a motherfucker. Yeah. You punch a big ass fucking block of ice like that, it's like punching goddamn cement, bro.
Yeah, I saw one little tidbit thing when I was kind of looking at the differences between this movie and real life. They said that there's no evidence that he's ever fucking, broken a 200-pound fucking ice block. So that
I thought he did something like that in Big Boss, but maybe what I'm getting is from this memory. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't put it by him. I mean, the power that he could fucking generate with a punch was just fucking crazy. But yeah, ice is pretty fucking hard. But yeah, that scene was awesome. Scene was pretty cool. And then at the end, I always loved that where they end up in the puddle of mud, and then the brother character is like drowning him. And Bruce, I didn't like this part, but he just like kind of plays dead and floats there. I'd be like, come on, Bruce Lee ain't gonna fucking okay, you beat me. Just play dead, play possum for a minute, and he'll stop. So he kind of plays dead and floats there, and all of a sudden you see the guy like wipe his blood away, and like he just whooped his ass, and then he just gets flipped. I really like that when Bruce Lee grabs both his legs, just whoa! Yeah. Guy falls, and then he does that. They allude to it earlier in the first fight scene at the dance where he does that move from the movies where he jumps on your neck and breaks your neck, and then has the does that intense face, but he didn't really do it to the guy when he was dancing. He just kind of stepped on a can next to him and scared him. And then this one, he doesn't do it on his neck to kill him, but he actually like jumps on his chest and fucks him up. And I love that. It's a really cool shot where it's looking down on him in the mud, and the mud is the mud water, and it's brown. You can't see through it. And it's just kind of like going up and over his mouth and his eyes and stuff. I was like, man, that's a cool looking shot. That was really dope.
Yeah, I like this. This is another one of the scenes. Again, I like the fights a lot better in this second half of and I like this one a lot. This one was dope. I kept thinking though during it, I was like, is the production team just watching all this? Like, there's a part where he puts his head next to the saw and he's about to like saw his head off, and I kept thinking like, just it'd be funny to cut, like they'd cut to the camera crew just standing there, like, watching this all go down. But no, I like that fight a lot. That fight was pretty dope. Yeah,
and then they were filming, and Bruce Lee goes over and rips the film out of the camera. Hey, Bruce Lee, you're crazy! That's the best fight scene I ever filmed in my life. You'll never work in this town again. So, and that shit would happen. Obviously not like that, but like I said, look up the videos of just like Bruce Lee stories of people that knew him and who he trained with, and there's some fucking awesome, cool stuff. There's this one guy. He's one of Bruce Lee's students. I fucking can't remember his name, but he's a big. I think he was like a judo grappler, boxer type guy. Forget his name, but he was talking about people saying that Bruce Lee never proved himself because he never fought professionally. And he's like, well, that's bullshit. Bruce Lee wasn't. He's like, professional fighters, there's rules that immediately make it safer than a street fight. And he's like, Bruce Lee was a street fighter, and I'd sparred with him. And this guy's like 230 pounds, and he's like, he's talking about the people who were in their group that would fight each other. And he's like, anybody, he beat us all. The 250 pounders, he's 130 pounds. And he's like, so when he was saying, when I hear people say that, I just want to tell them, well, then let's spar, let's fight. You should have no problem beating me because I'm 250 pounds, and Bruce Lee used to whoop on me, and we were pissed, and we didn't. He was like, we tried to hurt him, we tried to beat him because he was always making us look bad at these events and stuff, and so we were actually trying. And he was just an amazing fighter, and he's like, no matter, I would put him up against anybody ever, and I'd put my money on Bruce. And it's just really cool, interesting stuff like that. But yeah, look those up. There's some really cool stuff. That's where I get a lot of my info, because there's not much info other than his films about Bruce Lee. There's a couple documentaries. There's a couple Asian ones that are really good. There's this guy. Are you familiar with Bruce Lee?
Oh yeah, wasn't there like a blaxploitation movie back in the day called Bruce Lee: A Dragon Story? I think he played Bruce Lee. It's like the same title of this, but reverse. I don't know. When I was researching, I saw something come up. It was like,
I think you're thinking about Dragon. What the fuck is that one called? But it's got Bruce Leroy. That one.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
It's made by Motown Records. That one's a good movie. Yeah, that one's actually a really good movie. I'd check that out, dude. I think The Last Dragon is what it's called. The one.
Oh yeah, I remember that. I remember that.
Yeah, and that guy's an actual martial artist. That guy's cool. I saw an interview with him a while back where now he has this big ass scar on his face, dude, because he was jumped by all these dudes and somewhere they cut his face open, and he's like, I whooped all their asses, but I got cut pretty good.
No, sorry, I called it the wrong thing. It was Google is calling it a Bruceploitation film. But yeah, it's Bruce Lee, like Lee isn't L-I. This is in 1974. It's a movie called Bruce Lee: A Dragon Story. So it's literally this, but the opposite.
Yeah, Bruce Lee was a lookalike guy who did a lot of films back then. Right after Bruce died, they're looking for someone. He kind of looks like him. Not a lot. I mean, he's Asian. He kind of looks like him. Yeah, but he was in a lot of them. But the one I really like, try to look this one up if anyone wants to see a kind of a cool documentary. I saw this documentary before this Dragon one, because this is an old one that they made like right after he died. It's called Bruce Lee, the Man, the Myth. And that one's really fun. I really like that one too. It's kind of a different documentary take, but it's a more realistic one, believe it or not, because it's got like UW. It actually uses the name of the schools and stuff, and it actually goes into his death. Like it has him at the actress's house and taking the pill, and it has like the ambulance taking him away, and it goes into more of the death part. And it's actually really fun. I enjoyed that one a lot. I want to find that. I used to have it on DVD, but even then, I was like, dude, I watched this on DVD, and let me tell you, watching this shit on DVD on 4K, I watched it in the Xbox. I don't know if I need like a better DVD player or something. I would think the Xbox would upscale and do some things, but dude, it was like this big in the middle of the fucking TV. It was like a tiny square. I was like, oh, I had to fucking like blow it up in the menu of the TV to fucking make it big enough, and then it looked like shit. It looked like I was watching like film. It's like I look like scratches and noise. I'm like, oh my god. I was like, God, I need like a Blu-ray of this. It was terrible.
Yeah, I remember a coworker, I was telling him about like I like Ken Burns stuff, and I wanted to watch Ken Burns did a docuseries about Vietnam, the war of Vietnam, probably a couple years ago. And so at the time he didn't know, but at the time they released it on Netflix, so I was kind of watching Netflix, and I showed up one day. He was like, "Oh yeah, I bought you the Ken Burns DVD set, just because I know you like it." He's like a super nice guy. I was like, "Oh my god, that's so cool." Anyways, I was like, "Okay, well, this guy went out of his way to buy me this thing. I'll stop watching on Netflix and I'll watch the DVDs." And yeah, it was the same way. I like put the episode, especially going from Netflix 4K. You pop in this DVD, it's like this big. The audio sounds like it's from a fucking laser disc. Dude, it was bad. So,
it's funny because you say that the DVD I have is obviously a direct rip from the laser disc because it has Linda do a big intro in the beginning. Whereas like in the beginning of the movie, like it's not a separate thing. It just starts her intro for like 7 minutes before the movie of her talking. It's like, thanks for purchasing this special edition laser disc edition of Dragon, the Bruce Lee story. I was like, laser disc? What the fuck?
Wow, that's hilarious.
That's another thing. I really do want a laser disc player though, dude, because those are so cool. I see them at the thrift shop. There's a thrift shop near here that has a lot of them, and it just seems like it'd be really cool to collect them, like big record size packagings that usually have some really cool box arts.
Right.
Take up less space in VHS because you can stack them all in a little crate. I kind of want to, but the players are the cheapest one I've seen is like $150. And who knows if it'll fucking work? You know, there's so many things that could go wrong. But maybe I should just start collecting the discs and say fuck it, and maybe eventually get a player. Because I see the movies down there. I saw like T2 like $7. Fucking some cool ones, dude. And they massive box arts. So just look really cool. They're usually different from the VHSs.
Yeah, it'd be cool. I want to do. My goal is to get all of the versions of Boogie Nights because it's my. Actually, you can kind of see it right there. Oh, where's my finger? Right
Your
there.
favorite movie, huh?
That orange box right there. There's actually a VHS on top of it, but I want to try and get all the versions of Boogie Nights. So maybe I'll look into Laserdisc. That's got to be in the collection. Boogie Nights on fucking Laserdisc.
Boogie Nights. That's the guy who did fucking Let There Be Blood, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to go back to Bruce Lee's death for a second because you were maybe this is like one of those different story things, but you were just saying that something about taking a pill and being rushed to the hospital. When I was researching, they're saying that he died doing an ADR session while making or he collapsed rather in an ADR session in Enter the Dragon. So I guess probably false then.
At Enter the Dragon.
Like he collapsed. I don't know if let me go back.
He could have. He was known to work himself out too hard.
Maybe that's what it was. Maybe he didn't die doing ADR,
but Enter the Dragon came out before he died. I don't know why in this film they say 3 weeks before, and it's Linda doing the voiceover saying it at the end.
That's
3 weeks
Linda,
before.
not the actress?
No, that's Linda.
Oh, wow. I didn't know.
Oh, wait. No, it was the actress. It was the actress. Never mind. But the fact that they're going to have Linda's character saying it, and Linda's the consultant, and it's not true, and it really doesn't add anything to the film. I was like, what's the difference if he died after Enter the Dragon? Because it says that he died 3 weeks before the premiere of Enter the Dragon and never got to see, his work completed. And it's like, yes, he did. Why would you say that? It made no sense to me to alter the death that much. He died after. He died making his next movie, which was Game of Death.
Yeah, so, I guess they started filming Game of Death first, and then Enter the Dragon. They simultaneously.
Well, yeah. He's been filming Game of Death for years.
Yeah,
I guess it's kind of like his passion project. He would just get his friends to come fight him, like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and who he would train, and Chuck Norris, and other people. And he would just ask him to come do a fight scene. And I guess he'd been filming it for a long time. But yeah.
So yeah, you're right. I didn't read long enough down the thing, but I guess it started. In 73, Lee collapsed during an ADR session for Into the Dragon in Hong Kong, and then things started to escalate. And then, like you said, he took a aspirin or no, how do you even say that? Augustic?
It was some kind of aspirin, yeah. So
that's crazy, man.
Yeah, he was at a female co-star's house. They were doing something. I don't know. Going through a script, table read or something. And he had a headache. And she gave him that aspirin or whatever it was. And he never really took any kind of drugs ever. And he never woke up. And they say he died of a brain edema or brain swelling. They think he was allergic to that, whatever he took. And it just swelled his brain and he never woke up. 32 years old.
Yeah.
30 fucking 2. Wow, it's just crazy to think. Short life. It can burn so bright, bro. Like, tell me fucking ain't nobody know who the fuck Bruce Lee is. If you don't know who the hell Bruce Lee is, I don't even, like, you don't even have to enjoy fighting or his movies. It's like, it's just such a cultural, I think you know the name.
Yeah, I was talking to Sarah about this. It's interesting because Bruce Lee is an American icon, and and especially in the Hollywood system, as many fucking actors have come and gone in that system, it's pretty crazy that we don't have that many like larger than life icons. And he's one of them. Like I think like him, John Wayne, maybe like Charlie Chaplin. You know, these are names that people know, but maybe not be familiar with. But Bruce Lee is definitely one of those American icons that like even if you don't know anything about, you know who Bruce Lee is. But yeah, he left a fucking quite the legacy. And he only made what 4 or 5 films, and then I guess the Kato.
I think it was 5 films,
Yeah.
and I'm pretty sure one of those is Game of Death.
Mm-hmm.
So it's post death, and it sucks. If you watch Game of Death, it fucking sucks because they had to cut it all together. There's scenes where they use a cardboard cutout of Bruce Lee
I heard about
instead
that.
of Bruce Lee, and yeah, it's just a really shitty film. And you know, that's not Bruce Lee's fault. I mean, he died, so he never finished it. They're just trying to make a buck off him going. So really, it's 4 films if you want to be like legit, and that's crazy to have that kind of an impact after fucking 4 movies.
Not only just the movie impact, which is important, but I think what's even more important is the impact of martial arts. I mean, schools and like all the things he did in the '60s. It's phenomenal. It's great. I'm glad he did it.
Yeah, definitely. You know, every UFC guy, they're always cite Bruce Lee as an inspiration. It's like, I mean, I don't think we'd have any of this stuff, martial arts as it is today, if it wasn't for Bruce.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I still enjoy this film. It's got its problems. It's like it's a time capsule, man. It's really cool set pieces, time pieces inside. I think they do a real good job of showing 60s and stuff, and like mamas and papas are playing at the party.
Right.
And it's like, I'm sure that was legitimately the mamas and papas at the real party because this producer guy in Hollywood. That was really cool. But at the same time, it does feel like a 90s movie so much.
Yeah. 100%.
It feels like a 90s biopic movie.
Yeah.
But it's done really well. That's not a fault on it. I actually think it's a pro for the movie to feel that way because I think 90s movies were typically pretty well done. It was just a different flavor of a 90s movie. I don't know. It was just had great stories and heartwarming stuff and highs and lows, and they took you on crazy rides. You know, that wasn't like the movie wasn't like this. The movie was like fucking this in the 90s.
Yeah.
And, so I like that about it. I still think it holds up. I think the casting is amazing. The chemistry is amazing. The score is awesome. It visually looks pretty stunning. Like the DP or whoever's taking care of that, I think it looks pretty damn good. Overall, I just still think this movie's awesome, and it's one of my favorite Bruce Lee movies. And it's not a Bruce Lee movie. It's not Bruce Lee in it, but it's one of my favorite Bruce Lee movies because it's that good. You feel like it's a Bruce Lee movie when you're watching this. Not in the fact that, oh my God, it's got these awesome fight scenes. It just feels like a Bruce Lee movie because you feel like that is Bruce. Like Jason Lee did such a good job making this caricature. I thought it was perfect. It was not too crazy, but he hit the right notes.
Yeah, man. I mean, like you said, this is my first time watching it. I was a little nervous going in because I typically not a big fan
First of all, how have you never have seen this being a movie guy like I am? And this was like everywhere in the 90s. I thought 90s kids, this was huge. How did you avoid this whole time? What was this?
I don't know. It just was one of those movies that kind of, slipped through the cracks. I didn't. Well, and to be fair, I didn't get into. I kind of want to ask you this question after we're done with our thoughts because I want to know what your first movie was. But I didn't really get into Bruce Lee till later in my life. There was a movie that we'll talk about once we get to that I watched as a kid. But for the most part, I didn't really get into Bruce Lee till later. So maybe that's why. But I do remember that box cover that's sitting behind you for sure. But yeah. So yeah, I was kind of nervous going in because biographies, I don't know, they seem kind of the same. They all like start with the kid, and then these are the young adult years. Here's where their 20s, here's where their 30s, here's where the 40s and their 50s. I don't know. It's the
most
same
people,
fucking bullshit. Yeah.
Most people do start as a kid, Brian.
Well, I'm saying, like, well, no. So there's this trend right now that people are doing like biopics, but they're taking a slice of life of somebody and just telling that
Yeah.
the core story. And I think that's more effective. Whereas like the long drawn out from fucking age 1 to whenever they die is, not. I don't know. I don't want to make a blanket statement to saying they're all bad, but they all kind of feel the samey. You kind of know when things are going to happen when they do. So I was kind of nervous about that. But no, man, I think this is a really well-paced movie. I enjoyed it quite a bit, more than I thought I would. I would say that, and this may be controversial, but I was more entertained when there wasn't fighting, when there was, which is kind of weird for a Bruce Lee biography. Like I said, the first fight, the stuff in the first half of the movie, I didn't really dig, but everything with Bruce and Linda, I fucking loved. I thought their chemistry was great. I thought all their struggles were relatable and
Yeah.
engrossing. And then when a fight broke out, I kind of some of them were kind of laughable. But like I said, some of the fights towards the end were better, and I was kind of a little more invested. But I really enjoyed just the character of Bruce and the character of Linda and the family dynamic, especially towards the end. They get into some like workaholic type shit that's pretty deep. And yeah, overall, I and you said this is definitely a movie from the '90s, and I 100% agree. I think I even said that while I was watching it. But I agree with you that it's a positive. It kind of gives the movie a little bit of a charm. What else was I going to say? Oh, I was going to say I'm going to try and be not trying to be not sensitive. So I just want to say from a filmmaking standpoint, it's in a sense, maybe why I kind of liked it more is because they didn't have much to tell because he died so young. You know, if he would have lived through the 70s, we would have had fucking 2 more hours of this movie, or they would have condensed so much and like it could have felt overwhelming. Which a lot like the Johnny Cash movies and all those, like these people are still alive, so they go through the whole life and it kind of feels daunting. But the fact that he dies so young, you know, they don't have that many check boxes to mark. It's like, oh, they got to do the schools and you got to do the Hollywood, and then that's kind of it. So it feels more condensed as a biopic, and I think that's why I enjoy it more. Versus if he would have lived, they would have gone what else he would have done, they would have covered. But so I don't mean to be said. Obviously, it's awful that he died so young, but from a filmmaking biopic standpoint, it makes it a more condensed and entertaining story with it's so small, short.
It does seem strange to me. I still feel like this film was made early. He died in 1974. So 70, 80, 90s, 20 years after he died about is when they make the movie.
Mm-hmm.
But it still feels like he got a biopic really quick. You know what I mean? It doesn't it feel that way? It feels like a movie like this should come out now. Like I'm surprised nobody's redone a Bruce Lee biopic. Because it does feel like it was done early, and it feels like something that should be happening now. And I would like to see another run at it, even though this was good, because the more Bruce Lee life story, the better.
Mm-hmm.
And what you were saying about the more engrossing, not during the fights, in the Laserdisc version I watched, Linda is talking about in the beginning not wanting to do this unless she could focus on the man and the family man more than the movie star and the martial artist. And so I think that comes across, because it is based on her book. So I think that comes across in the movie as she probably, and I think it's apparent from the movie, wasn't a fan of his movies, or at least of the time he spent doing them.
Yeah.
So I think she didn't write about that as much. She wrote about what she did like about her husband. They do show a lot of a lighter side, and so yeah, it's pretty cool. And it's weird, right? It's weird that it's so enjoyable. I agree. I enjoy all the parts where they're not fighting. Mm-hmm. As a kid, when I'm remembering this movie, though, I'm just remembering fighting.
Yeah.
Just remembering play fighting, and you see a fight scene, you get up and start whooping your friend's ass.
Right.
Or you start punching on a pillow or some shit. So that's all you remember. I didn't give a fuck about the story stuff. I was like, get to the next fight. But and I don't even think we really touched on it. But real quick, I did love the fucking chef fight. I thought that fight was fucking super fun. Where it's playing fried green tomatoes and the fucking the water and the steam, and they're up on the beam. Woo, woo.
Yeah,
it's over the top, but I like.
This was like, this may be blasphemous, but technically it's not a Bruce Lee movie, so don't be offended to everybody out there. But while watching it, I was like, I wish this was a Jackie Chan scene. I want Jackie Chan to go all up on that motherfucker. Because Bruce Lee's on the wires just doing this. Ooh, ooh. I'm like, Jackie Chan would have done fucking cartwheels on that rope and done a bunch of shit, you know. I don't know. That fight was a little cartoonish to me, but
he would have already wrapped up two of them in their own jackets.
Back to Linda though, I agree. I think they're equally as strong characters. I mean, obviously this is the Bruce Lee movie, and he's going to have more screen time and all that. But typically in these movies, they kind of sideline either the husband or the wife, whoever's not the main character, and like the wives tend to just be a woman in a movie, or a man, or the husband is just a man in the sidelines who has a couple scenes. But Linda has a lot to do in this movie, and she's a character. She does things. She has a backbone. She helps him grow, and like she does all these things that typically you don't see in these type of movies. So I appreciated that they gave the second bill something to do, because a lot of times they don't have anything to do other than sit there and complain or something.
Yeah, for sure. So,
sorry, real quick before we what was your first, or do you remember your first
Bruce Lee movie?
Yeah.
I'm pretty damn sure it was I think I think it's Fist of Fury, but Chinese Connection here, right?
Okay, yeah.
The one with the restaurant?
Oh wait, no, that's my favorite. Or that's my favorite. That's Way of the Dragon. That was my first, but that's my favorite.
That's Way of the Dragon / Chinese Connection, right?
That was your first? Yeah. I think so.
Okay, yeah. Chinese Connection. I always like that one. That's the one where like he can't fight. Like he's promised not to fight, and like, but he wants to protect the restaurant. So yeah, that was my first. This probably is my favorite. I think my least favorite is Enter the Dragon. I don't know why. Something about the Americanized Enter the Dragon versus the other ones, just I don't know. It just doesn't hit as good to me. The production and the story is a lot better, and the visuals are a lot better. But to me, the fight scenes, actually not the story. The story I prefer it, like protecting the restaurant and all that.
Right.
I prefer. But yeah, it was definitely Chinese Connection. I don't know how I saw it. I just remember we had a bunch of those old VHS tapes, and I would just watch the shit out of them. And we had like, the old. They were like, pretty sure they were dubbed, or not dubbed, but they were subtitled or something, and they all had like the original titles. I remember it was like, because then we got different versions later down the line because I liked it so much, and I remember being like, why does this one say it's called this? But then it's called Chinese Connection on this tape. And I was like, what the I always wondered why that was in my mind until I got older. But yeah, they always like renamed it for the American audience.
Yeah, they do that with some of Jackie's stuff too. I was like, what the fuck? It's like Police Story 5, but in here it's like First Strike or something.
Flight of the Condor.
Yeah, but yeah, exactly. Or like Super Cop. I mean, Super Cop is technically Police Story 3. I think I remember I was at my grandma's house and we were going to Walmart for some reason. And I remember going down the fucking aisle, dude. I saw this beautiful VHS tape. The Warner Brothers had the little Warner Brothers logo thing, the ribbon.
Yeah, they all had that thing on the top.
Yeah, and it was a big fat VHS, like almost like a Disney type. It was black, and it was Enter the Dragon, Bruce Lee standing with the fucking nunchucks. And so that just caught my eye off the shelves. I'm like, Grandma, buy me this. And so she was, nice enough to buy me Enter the Dragon. I remember going back to my grandma's house because I used to go there a lot in the summertime. They had a pool out back, and then they had like this guest room. They had one of those VHS tapes where you push down on the top and the little tray goes up. Yeah, shove the tape in and slam it down. So I remember watching Into the Dragon back then when I was a kid, and then I don't remember how I felt about it. I just remember looking at the case, thinking it was cool. And I didn't really discover Bruce Lee till later when kind of you and I met around that time. We had a mutual friend named Matt. We kind of hung out at this Matt's house a lot. And somebody, I don't know who, one of our friends had the Bruce Lee set where it was like all of them were black case and they all had like just Bruce Lee on top, or like one of them he's like in red, and they all had. But I remember this being around the living room. We just sit around them, just throwing.
Was this the white box? Were they?
I don't remember what the actual box were. I just remember the individual DVDs. They're all.
They were the thin cases.
They're thin case. They're all black and they're all kind of. They all looked alike. But someone bought. I don't know if it was Matt or TJ. Somebody bought that set and they were just around. And I remember there's a small portion of time where we'd just be laying around watching Bruce Lee movies. But that's kind of how I saw Way of the Dragon and Fist of Fury.
Yeah. Big Boss. I think it might have been my set because I did have
it could have been yours.
I had a white set that had all thin It was a white box and white DVDs, but they were black cases. And there were the super thin, cheap ones, and there's like 5 of them in there. And it had everything. That was the best set. It had everything. I don't think it had Enter the Dragon because that's American, but it had everything else. It had that Bruce Lee, the man, the myth, fucking documentary I was talking about. Like that set was awesome. I think my grandma, I ended up giving it to her because she really likes Bruce Lee too. I think she might still have it. But anyways, DVDs look like shit now. I want to re-get it anyways.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess we'll get down to the nitty gritty. Since you have, what do you think? What's your score?
My score. I would probably give a generous 7 out of 10. I think it's pretty good. It has some faults. There's some eye-rolling, cheesy shit in there, and sometimes it's charming, sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's like, come on. But overall, from a movie from 1993 about Bruce Lee's life, I thought this was pretty damn entertaining.
Right on. I probably lowered my score since I was a kid, but I think I would probably give it a 7.9. I'm just going to put it a hair under. It's not quite an 8 for me yet anymore, but still very enjoyable. Still really good Bruce Lee biopic. Still enjoy it to this day. I hadn't seen it in a while, so it was fun to go back and rewatch it. And I'm glad that when I mentioned it to you, you said you'd never seen it. I was like, well, boom, that's fucking. We're doing this. It'd be
cool to do because we did a Jackie Chan movie. It'd be cool to pick a Bruce Lee movie that we could agree on and do a re-review sometime during the future. Because this did make me want to go back and watch his movies. Like I was telling you before, there's a Criterion set of all of his movies that I think about buying. But it'd be cool to do just pick one of his movies and talk about it.
Absolutely. I wonder if they have any 4Ks of his movies yet. Seems like they probably would for Enter the Dragon, but I imagine that's probably the only one.
Yeah.
So far. Like I said, I think it's on HBO Max if y'all want to check out Enter the Dragon. Last time I looked, it was, but you know how that goes.
Yeah.
You see it and you think you're going to go get it and you go watch it and oh, fuck, it's gone. Son of a bitch. So anyways, 7 and a 7.9. Excellent movie. Go check it out if you haven't. I feel like this is kind of a movie that slipped through the cracks for a lot of people. A lot of people don't remember it or know what I'm talking about, and it's a shame because that's why I kind of think it's ready for a reboot. Get this back in people's minds, the Bruce Lee story. Maybe do it super realistic too. Don't take all the drama because his life was pretty dramatic. We could just do it verbatim, and it'd probably be pretty damn entertaining. But that's all we got. Thanks for joining us, y'all. Please like and subscribe. Coming up on a year here in a couple months. So on our year anniversary, we'll do The Last of Us Part 3. If Naughty Dog gets it done, there's no promises.
Yeah, we got to think of something special to do. I was thinking about it the other day. I couldn't land on anything, but we'll think of something special.
We got to do the montage. You know how they always have the montage anniversary episode where it's us talking about clips from past shows. Yeah. Remember that time? And it's really not even a good new episode. It's just an episode they fill with other episodes.
That's how I felt all of Endgame was. That's why it pissed me off. I felt like one of those episodes.
It was the montage episode.
Yeah.
So thanks for hanging out with us this almost a year. We appreciate it. Please like, subscribe. Please tell people about us. We'd love to get some more viewers, and we're always open to ideas. If you're part of the Facebook group, we have on Facebook, we'd really entertain the idea of getting our ideas for videos from you guys. So far, we've kind of just chosen them ourselves, and that's fine too. It's okay. If you're a little shy, you don't want to talk, that's okay. But we'd like to get ideas from y'all because that'd be real fun to give the people what they want. All right. But that's it. Episode 47. Enjoy. Love you guys. Peace out.
Yeah. Peace.